The Drums of War, Chapter 31, Sons. Aboard the Robin Williams. Major General Eric George was numb. His wife had gotten full-dress house call earlier that very day, and she had called him at the earliest possible opportunity. He had lost two. He had suspected when he received news of the loss of a platoon of lost boys. He had known where his son was commissioned. He had harbored a selfish hope that Mr. Smee had somehow escaped the disaster that had wiped out so many fine infantrymen. He had known it was impossible. Never a step back. Never a civilian sacrificed in retreat. It was an attitude shared by the sailors of the ships the lost boys depended on for transport. He knew that she had been sunk, and more than likely all hands were lost. Her crew wouldn't have allowed the enemy to bombard the planet while she could make her guns sing. Roger among them. He had known before the call, deep down, but the call had destroyed that last irrational hope that his son might return home. He was sufficiently forewarned. His office was as spotless as ever, but instead of scrolling through reports, cross-referential intel, approving requests and orders, or issuing orders, he sat and waited. He waited for his friend to come and deliver the news. He had moved 2 visitors' chairs to the wall to ensure that there were no obstructions for what he was sure would happen. Sure enough, Admiral Jock opened the door unbidden and stood taut as a guy lion in his dress whites. His left breast was glistening with shifting medals and commendations betraying the slight tremor in the Admiral's chest. His boots reflected the lights from the ceiling. His cover was starched to perfection. His golden epaulets, with the icons of starships and 2 stars, seemed to shine with an inner light amongst the slightly reflective white of his shirt. He had even worn his bejeweled and gold-chased saber. General George sent a prepared message off to medical as he stood and walked clear of his desk. "I know already," the grizzled general said as his friend started to salute. "Sir, I regret to inform you that your son, Commander Roger George, was aboard the Mr. Smee when she was sunk in the course of engaging the enemy. He is presumed killed in action, and listed as MIA until such time that remains can be reclaimed and confirmed. Know that I—" General George's body tensed as he returned the salute and interrupted. "Sir, I know that it's not your fault. You commanded my son well, and he served his country with courage and devotion under your expert command." It happened. Admiral Jock's hand dropped to his holster, and his sidearm leapt out. General George crossed the space between them in the blink of an eye, and succeeded in averting the aim of the pistol away from the Admiral's temple. Admiral Jock squeezed the trigger, and ferrous material embedded itself in the bulkhead behind his left ear. He strained against General George's grip for a moment, but then let his sidearm clatter to the deck and sagged into the waiting embrace of his friend. I let my human die," he howled. "I meant what I said, Nelson," General George said as he supported the weight of his friend. "You are not to blame. Are you a Republican naval officer or not? Is one man's loss enough to destroy you, even if he was my son? If Evan died under my command, if our places were reversed, what then? Should I follow your lead?" Admiral Jock's tail curled between his legs as he muttered, "Forgive me, I sent MH warning. It seems they forgot that you just lost family and weren't keeping an eye on you," General George said with a withering glare towards the camera normally only used by Digitans when meeting the general. "Aye, sir," the Admiral said, defeated. "All hands. Never in my career." "I know, Nelson," General George said as he walked his friend into the corridor where a pack of distressed Navy personnel was sprinting towards the weapon discharge. A commander saw the discarded sidearm, the imbued slug, and the posture of the Admiral, and did some silent addition in her mind. She grasped the sidearm with her foot and deftly transferred it to her hand, where she kept it out of sight of her co-workers. She made assertions that there was no emergency, and things were being handled. When the concerned crowd did not disperse, she reminded them that they all had orders to carry out and threatened to jettison the beer. The enlisted and warrants scattered, but some of the officers lingered. They didn't make an impediment for the pair of aged officers, however. Nobody mentioned what must have happened. General George decided to have some of his staff start seeding rumors that the Admiral discharged in a rage at the Exarch for daring to sink one of his ships. By the time they were swarmed with medical personnel, the Admiral had regained his strength and was walking unassisted. I'm sorry for this, Eric. I wasn't thinking straight. No, you were not, he replied sternly. Take a little time. You have a good staff, they know what to do. They can function while you recover. That I can. Speaking of orders, we're not dirt side. You can't be issuing them to me, Admiral Jock rejoined with a feeble attempt at humor. General George forced a grin and said, Call it advice, then. You know I'm right. To which the Admiral nodded and allowed himself to be led further into the infirmary. Before all the attendant staff had vanished, General George pulled the doctor aside and said in a hushed growl, The George family have been his humans since he and I were 12, and I sure as shit know that's in his fucking file. He should have been flagged for crisis observation just like me. You should have fucking noticed when he put on his dress fucking whites to come tell me what I already knew. We almost lost one of the best naval commanders in the past 2 centuries because you fucked up basic protocols. The doctor, a commander in the Navy in her own right, had initially bristled at the scorching criticism, but by the end of the general's tirade, she withered to the point that she couldn't meet his blazing gaze and hunched her shoulders protectively as she murmured, Aye, sir, I'll look into what went wrong. You do that, he spat as he turned and began to track back to his office. The war didn't particularly care about his personal crisis after all. Work. In orbit of Clans of Aldera Multifunction World 4, Private First Class Jacob James J.J. Mitchell sped through the void in complete silence. The lieutenant had pulled him aside and reassured him that it was perfectly normal to be afraid in his first combat launch. The lieutenant had given him an odd look when he replied, I'm not afraid, sir. I'm too mad to be afraid. Maybe after I kill me a few 100 bloodskins, I'll remember to be afraid. He climbed into the boarding torpedo without another word and waited. It was the 3rd combat engagement for the Olympia, but their group hadn't been terribly interested in capturing ships. They left prisoners to elite formations like 2nd Star and the R&I divisions. It's tough for a shipboard trooper to see any action when the Navy is so much better than the enemy that they blast their ships to bits before they are in range for boarding torpedoes. Something had changed, though. Scuttlebutt said the enemy had unveiled some superweapon, some kind of planet cracker. But the Mr. Smee had only done initial scans and in-action telemetry sent back before she was sunk. Nobody was clear on the details, but the most popular theory was a massive battle station, like in the ancient 2D movie. Private Mitchell didn't really like to think about what could take out one of the 2nd Star ships. He hoped that the massive battle screen theory was wrong. The tons of ships thing just meant that the Republic would have to dust off some of her inactive shipyards and get building, if she hadn't already. The Navy would have to grow just to keep up with the volunteers. Private Mitchell put a thought aside, reminding himself that was something he could worry about after service. Right now, he had a job to do. Look, Dad, he said into his faceplate. I'm going to get them for you. Thought so, Sergeant Daddy said. And Private Mitchell swallowed a curse for forgetting to key off the mic. We have a job to do, newbie. If you get yourself in the shit hunting revenge, I'll beat you till you're blue as a full dress myself. Aye, Sarge, Private Mitchell said earnestly. Jump first. Making them pay is just a perk. Vasquez, keep an eye on the newbie. Don't let him get himself killed or fuck up the mission, Sergeant Daddy said anyway. Aye, Sarge, came a steady reply. I knew Vasquez was going to be my babysitter already, Private Mitchell said as his HUD started counting down from 10 seconds. There was also the detail that Corporal Vasquez was team leader for his fire team. Private Mitchell figured that the sergeant was angling to get him to be on his best behavior. Prepare for impact, Sergeant Daddy ordered. I can regulate, Private Mitchell insisted as his HUD showed 7 seconds. See that you do, Private, Sergeant Daddy said. The team channel fell silent as Private Mitchell and his fellows watched their countdowns, or their telemetry data, if they could interpret it. Private Mitchell could, but he had decided that it was better just to trust the aim of the Navy gunners and the targeting systems aboard than worry about missing. Thump came the sound over the platoon channel. That's the lieutenant. First boots in. Thump, 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 thump. The gunny and the sergeants. The rest of the impacts were so close that Private Mitchell wasn't completely sure the corporals had hit first. It didn't matter. as the torpedo was welding itself to the enemy ship, and its penetrating nose was turning the compartment it had hit into a shrapnel-filled death chamber. Even so, when he leaped into what looked like a mass hall or galley, he had his boarding shotgun shouldered. A fine thing, too, because one of the bloodskins came through the door firing a plasma caster. Private Mitchell grinned when he saw the slug blow a watermelon-sized chunk out of the enemy's torso. He put another slug on center mass, since in the enemy's position he'd have to keep fighting notwithstanding the missing flesh. The enemy stopped moving. Private Mitchell followed his HUD to form up with his fire team and made sure to cover all angles of approach as he did so. He knew his job. His team was on bridge capture, and the Navy had put them close. These idiots put their command bridges right next to their hulls, so unlike the Republican Navy, they wouldn't have to fight to the center of the vessel to get at the command staff and systems. "I'm in," Warrant Officer 2nd Class Farrimer said over the platoon channel. "EW support would be nice." Blowing bulkheads was risky, even if boarding pattern power armor had its own atbo. Besides, it felt nice to have a Digitan look over Private Mitchell. Private Mitchell was the second man, behind point, ahead of the team leader. The safest position on a fire team. He didn't complain. They wouldn't put a newbie on point or on rear. He knew that they had combat experience that he didn't. But he still resented the point man for every first shot snapped off. That was another bloodskin denied to his father. They owed him an ocean for his father's blood. The bloodskins owed everyone, sure. But Private Mitchell's father had earned more honor than that. He deserved to see his son pull a blood price from the bastards. Corridor by corridor, room by room, they cut their way to their objective. Point man would stand ready, Private Mitchell would prime nades, and Warrant Officer Farrimer would open the bulkhead or door for them. He tossed the nades in, they'd wait, and then 4 of them would storm in and blast anything that moved. Private Mitchell gave a feral grin when he saw an enemy warrior drop his weapon in terror at the sight of them in their void black power armor. He'd seen BPPA in combat mode before, and he'd agreed with a lightly armored warrior. Hulking black form with burning red embers projected on the faceplates, where the eyes should be, was striking to say the least. "Run, run, run, you baby-killing bastards!" Private Mitchell bellowed over his exterior speakers. "Regulate yourself, Private," Corporal Vasquez snapped over the private channel. "Aye, sir," Private Mitchell muttered, as his helmet got suddenly stuffy. "Don't sir me, I'm a corporal," Vasquez grumbled, as they stacked up on the door leading to the bridge, if their schematics were correct. The traditional reply reassured the private as he took a deep, calming breath. Warrant Officer Farrimer opened the door, and while the corporal was about to shout for surrender, Private Mitchell saw one of the freaks with the bones coming out of his chin. That meant nobility, like the shit-stain who had ordered the attack on the Wee Sing. The nobleman started to raise a weapon, and Private Mitchell didn't think. He moved. The nobleman was disarmed, literally, and Private Mitchell had keyed his speakers to translate into Exarch language as he shouted, "Put your weapons down! We remember the Wee Sing!" When they disarmed the bridge crew and helped Farrimer disable the ship's systems to get the rest of the enemy to surrender, Corporal Vasquez snapped Private Mitchell's boarding shotgun and shouted, "You're out of order, Private!" "He was preparing to shoot. These fucks can't even scratch our armor without anti-tank guns. What the fuck was he going to do with a sidearm? Sit the fuck down, Private!" Aboard the Tiger Lily. Acolyte Lord Narix Quinn, no, not Acolyte Lord. Simply Narix Quinn, if only in this small cell. Narix Quinn looked through the transparent cell wall at the man standing before him. He was glad that the man was human, for he often confused the Doggo and Big Kitty crew members, though the Chimpmando people were less confusing. He thought the arrangement most peculiar, as these so very disparate races seemed not to notice their differences, except in the most practical terms. On his trips to the ship's gym, and indeed even in that facility, he had seen Doggos order humans, or Big Kitties or humans order Chimpmandos. It couldn't have been a performance to pretend that the captain hadn't deceived him. Narix Quinn was still having trouble grasping the concept. Mayhap those with smooth chins had those better suited to command than some of his cousins. Perhaps the obedience from trust was better. The man before Narix Quinn was broad of shoulder, pale, fleshly pink of skin, fiery red of hair, and cold grey of eyes. He stood there as if whatever ground he trod became his ground, His visage carried an expectation that the unyielding would be broken. This man was who the captain had suggested explained the warriors who he had encountered when he had started the war with his regretful command to take hostage the emissaries. Narix Quinn wondered why this man should have special insight. Best to begin. "Your captain suggested your name when I asked of the warriors in white," he said.
"Aye, that he would," the man said.
Narix Quinn had the sense that the man began to loom over him.
"Corporal is the rank, yes?"
Narix Quinn asked, partly to cover his disquiet.
"Yes."
"Shall I call you by your name, Linus?"
"No. You may address me by my rank, or not at all."
"Understood, Corporal," Narix Quinn said with a shiver. "Who were the warriors in white, Corporal?"
Corporal Linus George narrowed his eyes and began.
"They are the Honor Guard, an elite Republican naval infantry formation intended to impress on Xenos like you with how much we value our diplomats, and how bad an idea it would be to attack them. They are required at minimum to have seen at least 6 combat drops or launches, to have trained for both Drop Trooper MOS and Shipboard Trooper MOS options, and have received at least a Martian Cross at least once. There are only 2 higher honors a serviceman can be awarded. Does that answer your question?"
Yes, Corporal.
"Thank you. Then I shall take my leave." The corporal began to turn to leave, but Narix Quinn had further curiosity.
"Wait. For what reason would your captain suggest you?"
"I have a personal connection to the Honor Guard."
"Please elaborate."
Narix Quinn had thought Corporal Linus George to have a cold glance before. The prisoner practically froze solid beneath the baleful hatred he found himself scrutinized by as he said,
"My brother commanded the unit before you murdered him."
"I have come to regret that order," Narix Quinn offered. The corporal said something that the cell system didn't translate, and when he saw Narix Quinn's confused expression, he repeated it in a different dialect.
"Woe to the vanquished!"
"Not so," Narix Quinn said past chattering teeth.
"My defeat has brought questions and answers I have not the words for. More, I live by your forbearance. Foreseeing you, I do not believe that any could restrain your vengeance against your will."
"You are not wrong. Not exactly right, but not wrong," Corporal Linus George said, as his gaze returned to merely frigid. "What questions? What answers?"
"Gods who do not demand blood, sacrifice taken up by the living, service to protect the indolent. These are strange to me."
"Some of the people I protect might be indolent, but because someone doesn't serve the Republic as a whole, doesn't mean they do nothing. Many people find trades, invent things, heal the sick, trend to their own planets, and contribute in that way. Even someone who's lazy today might be inspired tomorrow, and might have done something good already. The people I protect are good people, and they deserve my protection."
"Many of your comrades say much the same. I think I'm beginning to understand. I'm beginning to wonder whether the Xur is truly a god, whether he truly deserves obedience. You obey those you trust. I obey those I fear."
"Yes," Corporal Linus George answered simply.
"I know he is real, which you might not know about your god if you follow one,"
Narix Quinn said with a little of the wonder he felt at such liberty creeping into his voice.
"But I know that Xur is real and powerful. He desires the goddess Republic. I know she is not a goddess as you account things, but just so. You fight for her. You have true faith."
"Do you have children, Narix Quinn?"
"No,"
he answered, curious about why the question was asked.
"I do. A son. One day he'll inherit the Republic, and I owe it to him to leave him a Republic in better shape than I found it. Under attack from the Exarch Dominion is not better shape. This is why I serve. What are you fighting for?"
"To keep as few of my people from the altar as possible."
"Why?" "I have just an idea, Quinn. Don't trouble yourself about it. You'll find out if it has any bearing on your future after I talk it over with the captain."
End of chapter. I'd greatly like to thank our Tier 5 channel members, Casper Arnholtz, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.